There are those who say that a genius does not have a more powerful mind, but a different way of seeing, as if, in certain moments, a second vision ignites within them, revealing invisible connections that escape the ordinary gaze. Have you ever felt something like this? A moment when life seemed to appear in a different light, as if the world revealed hidden layers that no one around you could perceive? If this is part of genius, why does it so often come with isolation, strangeness, and solitude? Perhaps the answer lies less in intelligence itself, and more in the way reality is perceived. The one who sees beyond carries both the gift of clarity and the burden of holding truths that few can recognize. The first movement of this different vision is the distancing from personal interest. While most people look at the world seeking what they can gain or avoid, the genius's gaze slips free from those chains. They contemplate without wanting to possess, observe without desire, watch without seeking advantage. It is a disinterested vision that allows them to perceive life in its essence, as if things could be seen not for what they offer, but for what they truly are. This perception is not common. A tree ceases to be potential lumber, a mountain is no longer just stone, and even a human face reveals something beyond expression. It is as if everything carries within itself a spark of the eternal. The genius, in this sense, becomes a cosmic observer, someone who contemplates forms as living symbols of a deeper reality. Joseph Joubert summed up this gift in a simple phrase: "Genius is the ability to see the invisible, handle the intangible, and paint what has no form." This is the essence of this vision, making visible what the world cannot see because it is trapped by immediate interest. But this purity has a cost. Whoever suspends desire and plunges into contemplation experiences a kind of separation, not because they wish to withdraw, but because they see from a place where hurry, vanity, and ambition lose their importance. Thus arises conscious solitude, not chosen, but inevitable, the consequence of seeing what others still cannot see. And it is precisely here that the gift of lucidity can also become a curse. For perceiving what is hidden means living in constant estrangement. The one who notices the emptiness behind words, the superficiality of many gestures, or the incoherence of social masks, feels like a foreigner in their own land. They speak everyone's language, but think in a tongue almost no one understands. This distance is not limited to the intellect. It manifests in the simplest relationships, in the difficulty of finding someone who shares the same inner rhythm, in the feeling of being misunderstood, in the frustration of translating into words what is experienced in silence. The genius often realizes they are not rejected for what they do, but for what they are, for the intensity of their vision. Clarity, in this sense, opens a wound, as if, by illuminating life's backstage, this vision also revealed painful contradictions. A wound that, paradoxically, can also be the gateway of light. Rumi, the Sufi poet, reminded us, "It is through the wound that the light enters you." The genius, then, carries within themselves the gift of perceiving, but also the pain of not finding enough resonance in the hearts of others. Their truth becomes solitary, even when shared in words. But if lucidity already creates an abyss, the excess of noise deepens it even more. The modern world lives intoxicated by information. We are bombarded with voices, images, news, opinions, as if life's value were in the quantity of data one can accumulate. In this scenario, the mind runs the risk of becoming nothing more than a warehouse. Michel de Montaigne, as early as the 16th century, warned of this danger by saying that many filled their memory but left their conscience and understanding unarmed. And Goethe would add centuries later, "What we learn must be filtered through the light of our own soul, or it will be of no use. It is not enough to accumulate, it must be digested." Here lies one of the greatest dangers, the replacement of wisdom by haste. Deep ideas are swallowed by quick phrases, and reflection gives way to reaction. The genius, in the midst of this chaos, must protect their flame. They know that it is not enough to read or listen. One must assimilate, meditate, allow each idea to become lived experience. That is why they withdraw. They choose solitude not as a refusal of the world, but as a defense of their vision. This retreat may seem strange to ordinary eyes, but it is in this withdrawal that originality blooms. For true thinking is not born of repetition, but of the silent encounter between the soul and the invisible. The excess of external voices can deafen the inner voice, and without this listening, genius dissolves into mere erudition. Confucius had already warned, to study without thinking is a waste. To think without studying is dangerous. The balance lies in the middle, between learning and reflecting, absorbing and silencing. This is the key for knowledge to become wisdom. But seeing beyond is not enough. Another inevitable question arises: what to do with this vision? The temptation of pride is always present, to turn clarity into arrogance, understanding into a weapon of separation. Yet true genius does not flourish in the ego, but in compassion. Those who see more deeply also perceive the suffering that runs through all forms of life. They realize that behind appearances we all carry similar vulnerabilities. Here vision transforms into responsibility. Clarity can become a guide, not to impose truths, but to ease pains. Like a lighthouse that only illuminates the sea, without forcing any ship to follow a route. The true genius does not seek domination, but offers their presence as a silent reminder that something deeper sustains existence. This compassion is demanding. It is not pity, nor superficial altruism. It is perceiving oneself as part of the same fabric of life and, therefore, feeling responsible. It is what differentiates the genius from the mere wise man. It is not enough to understand, one must serve. In this sense, clear vision does not exempt one from suffering. On the contrary, it makes one even more sensitive to the world's pain. But precisely because of that, it can be a source of healing. Cicero once said, "The higher we are placed, the more humbly we should walk." The true greatness of clarity lies not in rising above others, but in bowing before life with humility. And it is along this path that solitude ceases to be a sterile emptiness and becomes a source of wisdom. Every genius, at some point, discovers that silence is not absence, but expanded presence. It is in withdrawal that the mind stops spinning around itself and opens to the ineffable. Lao Tzu said, "Those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know." Perhaps this maxim explains why so many of the greatest discoveries are born in silence and not in tumult. Henry David Thoreau, who withdrew into the forest in search of simplicity, said, "It is easier to sail thousands of miles than to explore the private sea of one's own being alone." And it is precisely this inner sea that the genius faces, accepting solitude as a crossing. This silence is not escape, but encounter. By withdrawing from external noise, the genius discovers an inner melody, a vibration that connects them to the invisible whole of existence. And, paradoxically, it is in this withdrawal that they become most universal. For by diving deep within themselves, they touch what is common to all, the essence that unites us. Even so, the question remains, why does clarity cost solitude? Because to see beyond means to notice what many prefer not to look at. It means perceiving emptiness disguised as grandeur, vanity hidden under altruistic gestures, fear disguised as arrogance. This lucidity prevents full participation in the illusions that sustain social life. And when one does not share the same illusions, the consequence is distance. Ralph Waldo Emerson knew this when he said, "To be great is to be misunderstood," and also, "To be original is to be misread." These phrases capture the experience of those who walk with clarity, yet carry with them the destiny of incomprehension. But this distance, which at first seems like punishment, can reveal itself as a path to maturation. conscious solitude, when embraced, becomes a space of gestation. It is there that vision matures, that inner truth takes root, that the soul discovers its real strength. The burden of genius, therefore, is not only weight, it is also soil. A dark, fertile soil where insights blossom that may one day become beacons for others. Blaise Pascal, reflecting on human nature, wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. The genius, on the other hand, discovers in solitude not a punishment, but a fertile field of discoveries." In the end, to speak of the psychology of genius is to speak less of exceptional talents and more of the courage to sustain clarity. All of us, at some moment, are invited to this challenge, to choose between the anesthesia of noise or the demand of vision. The question may not be to avoid solitude, but to transform that solitude into a sacred dwelling. For when clarity meets compassion, isolation ceases to be a prison and becomes a fruitful cave, like the seed that needs darkness to germinate. Here I leave you with a symbolic practice. Breathe deeply and recognize the noise that surrounds you, the opinions, the urgencies, the desires that pull you. Now, imagine yourself sitting at the heart of a silent mountain. Nothing needs to be proven. Nothing needs to be explained. Just remain. In that silence, allow your disinterested vision to blossom, and perhaps you will discover that you are not alone. There is an invisible presence sharing your existence. And the question that echoes is simple yet transformative. What if the solitude you fear today is, in fact, the secret gateway to a clarity capable of setting your soul free? If something within you calmed or awakened while hearing these words, allow yourself to continue. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to walk with us along this road of fertile silence, discoveries, and reconnection. Leave in the comments your own experience. Your sharing is also a seed of healing for other hearts. And to keep expanding this field of presence, we suggest the video linked above. May it be a gentle breath in your journey. Peace and light.